Alright, so today we're going to talk about worms. You have three major phylums. You have your segmented, you have your roundworms, and you have your flatworms. And what I'm going to do is go through this PowerPoint. I'm going to go through a little bit of another document that tells more about them. And then you're going to use these two things to help you do the assignment for today. So anyway, all worms are invertebrates. They have long, narrow bodies without legs. They are bilateral in symmetry. They have tissues, organs, and body systems. They have a nervous system with a brain. So yes, they do have a brain. They reproduce asexually and sexually. So as far as reproduction goes, many of them have separate male and female animals like humans do. Some of them, which is mainly your flatworms, have both male and female sex organs. They are known as hermaphrodites. Two individuals mate and exchange sperm. They can also reproduce asexually by breaking into pieces. So like this one right here, you have the one worm, it breaks apart and makes 4 new worms. This is also called fragmentation. All right, your flatworms. Examples are tapeworms, planarians, and flukes, and probably the one that you've heard about mainly is tapeworms. They are all flat and soft as jelly. They are parasites, an organism that lives inside or on another organism, and the parasite takes food from its host. Some are free-living organisms, which is an organism that does not live in or on another organism. So planarians, they are free-living flatworms. They live in seawater. They are scavengers, which means they feed on dead or decaying material. They may be predators. They feed like a vacuum cleaner, so they insert the feeding tube. The juices flow out into the food. The juices break down the food, and then it sucks up the partly digested food. And it's completed in a cavity inside, and the undigested exits the same tube. They have eye spots, which it detects light but no detail. And the head has cells to pick up odor. So basically, they rely on their smell to locate their food. Then you have your tapeworms. They are parasitic. They absorb food from the digestive system of the host. They live in more than one host in a lifetime. So, for example, it's talking about here how it's pretty much a never-ending cycle. Anyway, so the dog, if the dog has tapeworms, whenever it gets or basically poops, its feces can then be ingested by the rabbit and all, especially when it breaks down. And then the dog chases the rabbit, and it's a never-ending cycle. All right, roundworms. They live in nearly any moist environment. They're tiny and difficult to see. They're the most abundant animal on Earth. Some are free-living and some are parasites. They have cylindrical bodies, so they're like tiny strands of cooked spaghetti. So hopefully if you like spaghetti, you don't imagine roundworms next time you eat it. The digestive system is like a tube. It's open at both ends, so the food enters the mouth. It's broken down by digestive juices. The food is absorbed by the body, and it exits at the far end of the tube called the anus. And then you have segmented worms. For example, you have earthworms, leeches, and seafloor worms. They're made up of many linked sections called segments. They have a long string of nerve tissue called a nerve cord. They have a digestive tube that runs the length of the worm's body. So, for example, or just looking at the picture here, you have the mouth and the brain's right in there. Your reproductive organs are also located in this area. You have your upper and lower blood vessels, and you have your digestive tract starts here. So anyway, it flows through. You have your waste removal organs here. You have your intestines, bristles here, which help it move along, and then everything comes out the anus. They also have a closed circulatory system, which means the blood moves only within a connected network of tubes called blood vessels. It carries oxygen and food to the cells, and it moves blood much more quickly. So your earthworms in the environment, they tunnel for a living. On damp or rainy nights, they crawl to the surface for decaying matter and leaves to eat underground. They like staying in moist soil, which keeps their skin moist, which in turn obtains oxygen from the moisture on their skin. They are helpful by improving soil. They loosen the soil. They allow air, water, and plant roots to move through the soil. and their droppings also fertilize the soil, not soil. So anyway, I'm going to now go to the other one. This will also be located in here, but anyway, this goes along more with the types of worms. So again, you have your flatworms. They're dorsoventrally flattened. They are bilateral in symmetry, which means they have a definite anterior and posterior end, so top and bottom. They are acclimates. They have solid bodies. They have a mouth, which is a two-way digestive tract. They're nerve net and sometimes light-sensitive eye spots. They have specialized flame cells, help get rid of waste in water. They are hermaphrodites, which we talked about just a minute ago, which means they can reproduce sexually or asexually through fragmentation or regeneration. And some are parasites, while others are free-living. Your planarians, your most common free-living flatworm found in water or moist places. They are also hermaphrodites that exchange sperm with each other during sexual reproduction. They also reproduce asexually by fragmentation. You have your flukes and tapeworms. They are parasitic. They live in their host digestive tract, and they're resistant to the host enzymes, allowing the host to digest their food. So basically, if you got a tapeworm in your intestines and all, they're not really broken down by your intestinal juices or gastric juices. So they're able to live within your body or within your digestive tract. Flukes have a complex life cycle that involves more than one host. It causes schistosomiasis, a disease that attacks the kidneys, liver, and intestines, causing progressive weakness. It often takes 20 years to die from it, and there is no cure. Tapeworms, they are proglottids, sections that have a complete reproductive system producing fertilized eggs. They're hermaphroditic, that fertilize their own eggs. They have right proglottids with their eggs pass out with the host feces. The anterior end is called the scolex and is modified with both hooks and suckers to attach to the host intestines. Humans most often get tapeworms from infected undercooked pork, beef, or fish. Their eggs can withstand boiling water, so it is important to cook these meats well enough to destroy the eggs. Children sometimes get tapeworms by playing with the feces in the litter box of a cat, getting the eggs on their hands, and placing their hands or fingers in their mouth. The longest tapeworm ever passed by a person was 39 meters. Let that sink in. All right, your roundworms, cylindrical in shape again. They are tapered at both ends. They vary in length from being microscopic to 20 inches long. They're pseudo-chlolomate, can't talk today, having a body cavity that is not completely lined. Their body cavity serves as a hydrostatic skeleton against which muscles can contract. So unlike flatworms, they have a complete gut. This means they have a one-way digestive tract with a gut that begins with a mouth and ends with an anus. Therefore, they are usually able to digest food. They have no blood or heart. Their nutrients are distributed by a non-blood fluid, which is not pumped. Most of them are parasites and are found in all habitats. They are bilaterally symmetrical and unsegmented. Although they are cylindrical, they usually taper at both ends. They're covered with a thick protective cuticle that is flexible and can be molted, which means shed. They have separate sexes generally and reproduce sexually. Right here you have some examples. Again, people can get these from undercooked pork. It gets into the muscles, leaves calcium deposits, which affect muscle contraction and can affect the heart. For example, you have Ascaris, which is parasites in the human lungs. Filaria, the worm attacks the lymphatic system, causing great swelling. Hookworms and pinworms are also roundworms, which parasitize humans. Then you have your annelids, which are segmented. They are in all habitats. They are characterized by ring-like structures called metameres along the body and corresponding internal segments called septa. They give worms more flexibility and movement. If one segment is damaged, it isn't usually fatal to the animal because the organs are duplicated in other segments. It's a tube within a tube body known as a column, which is fully lined and contains the body organs. It runs from the mouth to the anus. They do have bilateral symmetry again. They do have a well-developed brain and sense organs showing cephalization. They belong to the phylum annelids. Each segment of earthworms has setae or external bristles made of chitin. They allow the earthworm to move and to burrow into the soil. They have a head and central nervous system, as we looked in the other picture. We talked about the moist skin. We talked about the circulatory system being closed. It has 5 pairs of hearts. When they feed on decomposing vegetation, it causes it to decompose faster. They have pharynx, which sucks in the organic debris, and which the muscular gizzard grinds, and they bring the nutrients from the subsoil to the topsoil, helps plants to grow. Undigested materials or castings are deposited outside the burrows. So, for example, leeches are parasitic, and then marine worms are free-living. So anyway, you're going to use this and the PowerPoint previously to help you do the assignment for today. And the assignment isn't a Google slide, but it's where you'll be given a copy of it, and you can do the activity and then turn it in. If you have questions, send me an email, and I hope you have a great day.